Okay, so Gemara, we are up to 3 lines from the top on Daf Mem Aleph Amar Aleph. My Ika ben Shvuah Deraisa l'Shvuah Derabbanan. So yesterday I actually misspoke, and I said that by a Shvuah Derabbanan you don't have to hold on to a Sefer Torah, and that in fact is not true because we're going to see right now that the Gemara does not say that as a difference. So ma'ika ben shvuah deraisa l'shvuah derabbanan, and the shvuah deraisa we know is like a moed b'miktas or a shvuah b'nei echad, and the shvuah derabbanan, the shvuah heses, is had Rav Nachman, which Rav Nachman taught us that if someone is moida that he paid that he borrowed money, and the discussion is whether he paid back, that's where there would be a shvuah heses. Goes up to Gemara. Ika benayu mepach shvua. Mepach shvua of Rashi is im amra nitfa lo teveya hashpe v'toil. So in the case of a moed b'miktas, where the loiva has to swear that he only owes $100 and not $200, what if he says, you know what, I don't need to swear, I don't want to swear. You swear that I owe you the full amount, and I'll pay you. So mepach shvua b'deiraisa loy mapchina. If it's a shvuah deraisa, you can't do that. The loiva can't say, you swear that I owe you the money and I'll pay. Rather, either he swears that he doesn't owe the money or he has to pay. So therefore, deraisa loy mapchinon shvuah. B'derabanan mapchinon. If it's a shvuah derabanan, so for instance, in Rav Nachman's case, where I admit that I owe the money, but I claim that I paid it back, and over there's a shvuah heses, there I have a right to say, I don't want to swear. You swear that I owe you the money. Okay, gewaltig. Zog to Gemara. Lamar bar Vashi. The Omar, b'daraisa nami machchinon shvuah. But according to Mar bar Vashi, who also says that even by a shvuah deraisa, the loiva could push the shvuah on the malva. Ma'ika b'deraisa l'drabanan. According to Mar bar Vashi, what is going to be the difference between a shvuah deraisa and a shvuah derabanan? Zaktamor ika b'nayu mechas l'nichsei. If he refuses to swear, will the bezdin go and seize his assets to pay? B'deraisa, if it's a shvuah deraisa, nachtin l'nichsei. The bezdin will seize the assets of the nitva. But b'drabanan, if it's only shvuah derabanan, even if he refused to swear, there's no recourse. Loy nachtinon lo nichsei. We won't. The bezdin won't go and seize his assets. We ask him to swear. If he doesn't, then we don't seize his assets. What about according to Rabbi Yosy, who holds that even by a shvuah derabanan, they will seize his assets? So if you put all these shitas together, Mar bar Vashi, who holds b'daraisa mapchinon, and Rabbi Yosy, who holds b'derabanan nachtinon nichsei, what would be the difference between a shvuah deraisa and a shvuah derabanan? Where do you see that Rabbi Yosy holds that even by a shvuah derabanan you seize assets? It's none be learned. Metzius cheresh shoyte b'katan. Really, they don't have a kinyan. So if they pick up a metzia, it's not theirs. You can grab it away, and that's not an issue at all because it doesn't belong to them. Because a cheresh shoyte b'katan will not be koine. Nevertheless, yesh b'am gezel m'pnei dakar shalom. We don't allow you to take it away from them because of dakar shalom. We're not interested in fights. If they got it, you can't take it away. But Rabbi Yosy Omer Gezel Gomer. Rabbi Yosy said it's Gezel Gomer. Now Gezel Gomer sounds like it's deraisa, they have a kinyan, but that can't be. Not if he's too young to make a kinyan. If he's too young to make a kinyan, then there's no kinyan here. If he would be able to be kinyan, yes, it might belong to the parents, but it can't be kinyan. So the question is, what do you mean Gezel Gomer? If a cheresh shoyte v'katan don't have a kinyan, Amar B'chista explained Rabbi Yosy's words that it's Gezel Gomer midafrein. It's still midrabanan, but we treat it like Gezel Gomer. What's the difference between if we treat it just like Dakar Shalom or if we treat it like Gezel Gomer? To if it's the plain Daka Shalom for the Bonin, we tell you don't take away the Messias. However, if it's Gezel Gomer Midavrim, that means you can go to Bezdin and you could mon him. In other words, according to Yosy, even by a Derabanan, Nachin Ladina, Bezdin will enforce. Bezdin will enforce. So if that's the case, if according to Yosy, even by Derabanan, Bezdin enforces, what is the difference between a Shvuah Daraisa and a Shvuah Derabanan? Ma'ika v'daraisa Derabanan. Zok Gemara Ika beinayu shekenegdoi kosher al Shvuah. We know there's a rule. What if the loiva who has to swear Shavuos Moedim Miktas, he's choshen? We cannot allow him to swear because Bezdin feels that this is a person who would swear falsely. So how do you deal with a scenario like that? B'daraisa, if it's a Shvuah Daraisa, shekenegdoi kosher al Shvuah, abchinin le Shvuah v'samu a'idach. If the nitva cannot swear, we tell the toiveya to swear, and he'll be nishba v'noita. However, b'derabanan, if there's a shvu derabanan placed on the loiva, takantahi. The whole fact that we're asking the loiva to swear is a takana. V'takanta l'takanta lo yavdina. Now you want us to come and make a second layer to this takana, where if the loiva can't swear, we shift the shvu and force the malva to swear. That you don't do. So now we finally have a resolution as to what the ultimate difference is between a shvuah daraisa and a shvuah darabanan. It doesn't say anything about holding a chayfetz. It's all about whether or not, if the person that is supposed to swear is unable to swear, do we shift that shvuah and put its burden on the toiveya? I'm sorry. No, we know he's a lawyer. We know he's a huksa kafir. So Bezdin won't let him swear. What about according to Rabbanan to hold that by a Rabbanan you don't take it away? If it's a Shvuah Rabbanan, they would not seize his assets. So what do you do? The problem is, so it has no bite. If a Shvuah Rabbanan can't be enforced, then what's the purpose of a Shvuah Rabbanan? What do? They have to do something. Zok to Gemara. What they do is mishamtinan. They put him into cher. If this loiva, this nitva, refuses to swear, he's placed into cher. Amar Ravin Ravashi, Hai nakte bekusve the nishvege leglimehu. Nakte bekusve literally means you grab him by those things that hang down and you squeeze. So you're telling me that you're not forcing him. We're saying the Rabbanan hold you're not machziladin. The Bezdin doesn't enforce. Well, if they grab him and squeeze, that's a pretty stark force. So hai nakte b'koisvei the nashkve l'glima. He's holding your beged and you're squeezing him until he lets go. Don't tell me that's not enforcement. That's the biggest possible enforcement.
What kind of language is that for the Gemara to use?
It's an outgrowth of what a shvuah is anyway. Let's see Rashi. So Rashi, nakte lekuse the lishkriye leblimehu. Right. Yeah. That's the literal translation. So Rashi says, oichsoi beveitzav hatluyim boy ad sheyitin loy talish olav. You basically grab him and squeeze him until he gives you what you want. Kloimar, kivan de mishamtina loy la'olam ad delasiv loy. If you're telling me that you put him into cherem indefinitely until he acquiesces, until he gives in, less lach lemechas al nichse adif behai. You're telling me that's not enforceable? That's pretty enforceable. Never mind. So why do we refer to the beitzim as lekuvse? So Rashi says, and that's what you're referring to. Kol dover atoli b'mechumer, anything that's hanging off a connected thing, kari like kufsa. So you find kufsa is used to refer to dates that are hanging off a tree, but the Gemara says it the way it is. This is serious enforcement. So Zok to Gemara, Elamai Avdinalei, you know what we do? Amrlei Mishamti. So what do you do for the guy? So Amrlei Mishamtinalei, we put him into Cherem, ad the Matizman, and that's for 30 days. The standard Cherem is 30 days. and after that, nagde. Then you give him malchus. You give him malchus, and then the shafkin, and then you let him go. So it's an encouragement, but not an absolute enforcement. That would be done in the case of a shua, if it's only a shua derban. Okay, look the next Gemara, which is somewhat related to this Gemara, because there's a discussion in the Rishonim if we paskin like Mar Bar Avashi. What does Mar Bar Avashi say? We had him just at the beginning of this Shaila. Mar Bar Avashi said, "V'dayraisa nami mavchina." You know, the Raisa took a shvur, means I'm moed b'mitzvos, and they want me to swear. I could say, you know what, Malva, you swear. So that is the sheet of Mar Bar Avashi. Let's have a look at this next halacha. Amar Papa, Hayman the apik shtar al chavrei. Someone pulls a star that Reuben pulls a star that Shimon owes him $1,000. We Amar lay, and Shimon says, yes, it's a shtar, but Peru, I paid it. Amrin lay, you tell him, lav kol kiminach. You can't deny that you owe it because shtar chabiyadi my boy. If I have the star, you obviously didn't pay back because had you paid back, you would have insisted on getting the star back. So you got to pay zil shlim. V'im amar lishtavali. If the loiva says you want me to swear, if the loiva tells the malva you want me to pay you, swear to me that I didn't pay you back. I'm claiming that I paid you. You swear that I didn't pay you back, and then I'll pay you. Aminalei, you side with the loiva. Ishtabali, you forced the malva to swear. Omalei Rav Acha barei de Rav al Rav Ashi. So Rav Acha barei de Rav had the following question to Rav Ashi about this halacha of Rav Papa. Uma ben zeh lepoigim eshtar. The halacha is, if I'm holding a star that says you owe me $1,000, but I agree that you already paid back 500 of it, there the halacha is I have to swear. So Uma ben zeh lepoigim eshtar. What's the difference between that and the case of poigim the story? The example Rashi gives is ksuba. A ksuba is a star, and what if she agrees that she already received part of the ksuba, and he claims he paid it up in full? So what is the halach over there? The halach over there is that she has to swear as well. So in other words, poigim star is a known halacha that if someone admits that my star isn't perfect because some of it was paid back, in order for me to collect the remainder, I have to swear. Why is that any different than Rav Papa's case? Zok Gemara is a very big difference. If it's a case of poigim story, I come to collect. I have a star that says Shimon owes me $1,000. Even if if Shimon insists, I want you to swear because I feel I paid you back, then I have to swear. But if Shimon doesn't say anything, we make Shimon pay. However, if I went to Shimon and I said, listen, I have a star here that says you owe me 1,000, but I agree you already paid back 200, even if Shimon doesn't even know what to say, Bezdin will say, you must swear. So that's it. If it's Paigim Shtarai, Bezdin will make you swear. Bezdin will time on behalf of the Nitva. But in a case where he claims he paid back, they're only if the Nitva asks for it. So Zok to Gemara, Uma ben Zela Paigim Shtarai, Amalei Hosa by Paigim Shtarai, Alpagav Deloy Ton, you Tanin Alei. Tanin Alei Anan, we time it for it. Hocha. But in the case where I have a star that's not Pogim, and you just claim that you paid, Amin Le Zil Shlim, you tell him to pay. The Toyin, the Amar Ishtabali, only if he demands a Shvua, then we do enforce that demand, and we make the Malva swear, Amin Le Zil Ishtabali. However, V'Yitzuvah Merabbananu, if he's a Talmud Chacham, you don't make him swear. So if the Malva is a Talmud Chacham, you don't make him swear. That doesn't sound fair, does it? So you might think it doesn't sound fair because you're favoring the Talmud Chacham. Not so. The Tzuvah Merabbananu loy mashpinalei. Amal Rabbi Emel Ravashi Tzuvah Merabbanan mishlach glima de inchi. Are you telling me that Talmud Chacham will go steal anybody's beged because you don't make him swear to back up what he said? So tomorrow, no, it's exactly the opposite. It works to the disadvantage of the Talmud Chacham. And loy means the keninan le. If a Talmud Chacham comes to Mon, we won't even take on this case. So Rashi loy means the keninan le lishava. The mechsi the chashtinulei. We won't ask him to swear, and therefore the loy ligvois loy the Amr lo ishtabali lo praticha. So whenever the nitva tells the Talmid Chacham, swear that you didn't collect yet, we close down the entire, and the Talmid Chacham loses, because we cannot ask the Talmid Chacham to swear, because it shows that we don't trust him. But at the end of the day, we can't take the money either if he doesn't swear, so we close down the din. As Rashi says, I hope I'm reading it right. You don't make him swear, the but they don't mun for him either. And we're not going to let him swear. So the Talmid Chacham ends up having a disadvantage. Bottom line is, if you lend somebody money, make sure you're lending it to somebody who's trustworthy. So there's a couple of quick points that I want to make over here that Tosfos makes. This was about holding a chayfetz. I mentioned that I made a mistake by saying that the difference between the Shvuah D'Oraisa and the Shvuah D'Rabbanan is whether or not you hold a chayfetz. So let's just quickly take a look in Tosfos. Zok to Gemara. Ma'ike ben Shvuah D'Oraisa l'Shvuah D'Rabbanan. Pirish hakosev gabehad Omar Rav Nachman ipikeach ma'isel de Shvuah D'Oraisa. Pirish Bakunjas in the Gemara Ksubis, there was a discussion of a Shvuah D'Oraisa versus a Shvuah D'Rabbanan, and Rashi says there the nafkamina de b'D'Oraisa boy leminka chefza b'yodei u'D'Rabbanan loy boy. So I wasn't totally mistaken. Rashi does say in Ksubis that the difference between a Shvuah D'Rabbanan and a Shvuah D'Oraisa is if you hold on to a chayfetz. But Tosfos is very near. If that was a difference, why didn't the Gemara mention it here? And then he brings other rights as well. So Tosfos holds that regardless, you have to hold on to a chayfetz. Okay, that's the first halacha. The second interesting thing is Ulumar bar Vashi, the Amr b'D'Oraisa nami mafkidim. So halacha l'maisa, could the loiva force the malva to swear or not? So the Rivam Pirish b'Shem HaKuntris, the Hilchasa Kavosei. We paskin like Mar bar Vashi. The Kaim alone, Kamar bar Vashi, the Mepach Shvuah. When it comes to the loiva pushing the Shvuah on to the malva, we paskin like Mar bar Vashi, who holds even by a Shvuah D'Oraisa, the loiva could say, I don't want to swear not to pay. I trust you, you swear to force me to pay. V'chein b'tshuvas Rabbeinu Gershon Me'or HaGoyla, v'chein Reb Hai Goyen. So there's a lot of strong support in the Rishonim to say that even by a Shvuah D'Oraisa, you could be Mepach to Shvuah. The Hevi Raya, the Hilchos HaKavosei. And he brought a very nice Raya from our own Gemara that we must paskin like Mar bar Vashi. Mita Amar L'Kamei. We just had a moment ago, we learned from our Papa, Haiman the Mapik Shtar al Chavre, if Reuben pulls a star on Shimon, if Shimon demands a Shavua from Reuben, the loy praticha, Amrin lay, you force Reuben to swear. Amrin le zilishtaba lay. So let's make a chalvachimer. Uma hasam the islayaleh mamin gomer midiraisa. I have a star, so midiraisa you Shimon owe me money without any shuas. Nevertheless, yochol lahapich olav shvua. Nevertheless, the loiva could still demand the shvuah of the malva. When the malva is a star, he has every right to collect. So hecha the last lay el shvuah deraisa. In the case of moed b'miktas, where I have no tvias moment on the nitva, at best I only have a tvi of a shvuah. Loy kolshkin, surely the motzi amr lay ishtabeli at. So ulufit vara, based on what the go'onim are saying, that you have a raya from our papa's case, which the Gemara seems to have mentioned undisputed, to Mar bar Vashi, man de palaga Mar bar Vashi, kol shekain the palag adelakamei. Surely, if you argue on Mar bar Vashi, you would argue on the halacha that Rav Papa quoted. Miyu haga'odim nechlaku v'ahid lekamei. However, there is a machlokes goinim in that case of Rav Papa. I amar leishtabeli the loy praticha. What if the Shimon tells Reuven, you have a star, swear to me that I haven't paid it yet, because I claim that I paid it. Im yochel idach lachser v'loimer ishtabeli at v'tifter. Can the Malva say, no, I'm not going to swear that you owe me the money. I want you to swear that you don't owe me the money. The im yochel, if you could flip that, then ein raya of Haimisham, then you don't have a raya, because I could push the shvuah back on you. So at the end of the day, Tosha says, the loy mafchina shvud araisa, and we don't paskin like Mar Bar Vashi, and there's other people who don't paskin. So there's a question here if we paskin. Bar we pass like Mar Bar Vashi everywhere except for Bar Mimetach Shvur B'Chiyurei. So he says we don't paskin like Mar Bar Vashi, and you don't have a raya from the fact that the Gemara said according to a papa that the loiva could demand the shvua because the malva can push it right back on the loiva. Okay, zok to Gemara weiter. Mana libiyot. So this is a koy for a koy. Someone says you owe me a mana, and I say I owe you nothing. I'm part from a shvua. What if the person says I owe you the money? Hey, I owe you $100, but he didn't have the money to pay right then and there. And then the next day, after the loiva was moed in front of Adam that he owes money, so now it's for sure that he owes the money. He comes back and says, "Okay, pay up." And then the loiva says, "What do you mean? I paid you. Since that conversation, I had already paid you." So what is the halacha? The halacha is that he's potter from a shvur. Amar Rav Yehuda, Amar Rav Asi, Hamalvas chaver be'edim tzarach lepoire be'edim. If you borrow money and there's Adam watching the transaction, so it's a hava be'edim, you are mechuyev to pay back be'edim. And if you don't pay back be'edim, then he could collect from you once again. Zok Rashi, there is no Rashi, okay. Zok to Gemara, ki amrishak amei de Shmuel. When I told this halacha to Shmuel, Amar li, Shmuel told me, Yochel loy maloi, praticha b'fnei ploni uploni, v'hochel lahem l'medina sayam. Yes, I have to pay back be'edim, but there's a way around that as well. Because if you come and say, pay me, and I said I already paid you, you'll say, well, you had to pay me in front of Adam. So I did pay in front of Adam. He says, where are they? I said, they left. So I did fulfill what I was supposed to. There were Adam that witnessed the fact that I paid you back. I just can't produce those Adam right now. So Zok to Gemara, Tanan. So now let's see how our Mishnah is related to this question. Mana li biatcha amar loy hein, l'macher amar loy teneyu li, and the lawyer said, what do you mean the satav loch? I already paid you, pater is pater. Fragt Gemara, v'hahacha the tava be'edim commando losh pe be'edim dami. Now the Mishnah doesn't record in the case that there were edim that witnessed tava. That's true, but the case of him being moida that he owed, the loiva wasn't stop moida. The loiva was moida in front of edim, as Rashi says. The hahacha given the tava be'edim, v'hoida loiva fneim. It's commando losh pe be'edim dami. When I demanded of the loiva, you owe me money, there were Adam witnessing it when the loiva admitted that he owes me money. So basically, his chiyuv started with Adam. So why wouldn't we say the same thing? Tzarach lepar be'Adam. So how could he just say, I paid you back if there's no Adam? But the Katani Potter, it says it's Potter. So you should have a raya from here that Amalvas chaver be'Adam ain't tzarach lepar be'Adam. Because our case in our Mishnah is equivalent to that. Zok Gemara to Yufta de Ravasi. Does this slug up Ravasi who says Tzarech Lepar Be'edim? Now Tosfos says, what about Shmuel? Shmuel also says Tzarech Lepar Be'edim, but you could just say that I paid you back with Edim. So Zok Tosfos Avol Shmuel Nicha. According to Shmuel, it won't be fair. The Motzi Lefarish the Hachi Kamar. Nestat of Lach b'fnei Ploini v'Holchalam Limnas Hayom. Shmuel could explain the Mishnah that when the loiva said I paid you already, he said, I paid you in front of Adam. They're not here. But according to Rabbi Yossi, where you don't have that option, why is it potter? According to Rabbi Yossi, it should be chayiv. Amlach Rabbi Yossi, ano ki amri heicha de meikara uspe be'edim. I only say that you have to pay back with Adam is if the original loan was with Adam. Why is that important? The loy lididei hemnei. By me lending money to somebody in front of Adam, I'm clearly declaring to him, I don't trust you. Because if I trusted you, I don't need Adam. So I don't trust you. So since I'm declaring to you in the Alva, I don't trust you, then you have to return it only with Adam. But Hacha, in this case, when I originally lent you the money, I trusted you because I didn't have Adam there. There happened to have been Adam when I made the demand of you and you were moided. But that doesn't change the fact that the premise of this loan was based on trust that would not require Edim upon the return of the money. Okay, Gabaltik. Rabbi Yosy Masni Hachi. Rabbi Yosy learned as follows. Amar Bidu Amar Ravasi. Hamalva es chaver be'edim, ein terech lepar be'edim. So he actually quoted, Rabbi Asi is saying exactly the opposite of what we just said. But the im Omar al tafri eini ela be'edim, but if the Malva spoke out, you should only pay me back with edim, then tzorech lepar be'edim. So in the first lashon that we had on Amar Aleph, if I lend you with edim, you got to pay back with edim. This lashon, it's only if the Malva speaks out, I want to be paid back with it. When I said this over to Shmuel, Amarli the same thing. Shmuel, same comments. You can always claim that I paid you back in front of Edim. I don't have to produce those Edim as long as I claim that I paid you back in front of Edim. Tanan we learned. Mana libiyotcha, Amar laheng. Amar loy. Right, that was the second case of our Mishnah in this Inyan. In this case, when the fellow was moida, the Malva said, "When you pay me back, you better pay me back with it." The next day, he said, "Please pay me up," and the Loiva responded, "Nesatavlach, I already paid you." So our Mishnah Paskins Chayiv. Why? Because you have to give it to him in front of Edim. So you have to do Shmuel. This seems to slug up Shmuel, because Shmuel said that I can always say that I did pay you in front of Edim. They just left. So this is going to be sure on Shmuel, because this Mishnah seems to indicate that unless I can produce those Edim, I'm going to have to pay. And Shmuel, you don't have to produce the Edim. You just have to claim that you paid back in front of Edim. In fact, there's a machlokes tanoim about this very subject, whether or not you actually have to produce those edim or not. The Tanya we learned, the edim helvi sicha, the edim prali. If the Malva claims, I lent you the money with edim, I expect that you're only going to pay me back with edim. As Rashi says, the edim helvi sicha, kasol kadaitach b'shas al v'akoy. At this point, the understanding of the Gemara is that at the time of the Hava, the Malva said, I expect to be paid back with Edim. See, there's Edim here that are witnessing the loan. When you pay me back, you better pay me back with Edim. So that was the case as we understand it now. So the halach is Oyite, Oyavi Raya, Shenosan. You have two choices as a loiva. You either pay the money or you need to bring Edim that witnessed that you paid back the money. Rabbi Yehuda ben Beseir argues. Rabbi Yehuda ben Beseir Omer Yochal Loimaloi Praticha B'fnei Ploini Uploini V'ochu Lahem L'Bdina Sayam. So this is exactly Shmuel's halacha. So basically, the Tanakama does not hold like Shmuel, but Rabbi Yehuda ben Beseir holds like Shmuel that even when there's a chiyuv to pay back by Edim, I could claim that I paid back with Edim, but the Edim are no longer here. Zok to Gemara Vayter. Parachavach. Have the following question: Mimai the b'shas halvokoi. Who b'chalal said that this brisa that we just quoted was speaking when at the time of the alvoder edim? Dilma b'shas tviyakoi. Maybe the brisa here is talking about a case where there were edim when the Malva originally approached the loiva, and that's when he said edim, which is similar to the case of our Mishnah. So maybe the case of our brisa is similar to the case of our Mishnah. V'hachi karmelei, lav be'edim hilvisicha, be'edim hayalach lipar'oni. Zot Rashi, dilma b'shas tviya kamar, kishetavai bebezdin, when the Malva originally made claim from the Loiv in Bezdin, v'ze'omer praticha, and now the Loiva claims that he paid. Amalai told him, "V'aloi be'edim hilvisicha, be'edim havalach lepareni." I lent you the money with edim, so you should have paid me back with edim. V'loi Omar came b'shas hava, but maybe this wasn't stated at the time of the hava. Umisham haki poter le Rabbi Yehuda ben Beseira. So the question is, how could you emperor the brisa according to Shmuel and say that even if at the time of the halva the malva stipulated that it has to be paid back in front of Edom, and even there Rabbi Yehuda ben Beseira holds that you could say I pay back with Edom, but I can't produce them to support Shmuel. That's not the case. Maybe the case is b'shash fiyakoi. The malva is telling the loiva, la be'edom helvisicha. I lent you the money with Edom, but he didn't stipulate it at that point. Be'edom hoyalach lepareni. You should have paid me back, and that's where there's a machlekes. Avol b'shas halva. But if I actually spoke out, so maybe the Bryce is speaking where I never said anything b'shas halva. I just lent you money in front of Edom, but I didn't specify at the time you have to have Edom. I'm claiming now, when you claim you paid back, now I'm saying you should have had Edom. But in the case where b'shas halva, where you spoke out, you better pay me back with Edom, maybe Divrei Kol would be chayiv, and therefore Shmuel is without support. Because Shmuel holds no matter what, you can always say that I paid back with Edom. Amar Apapi Mishmei Derava, Hilchasa. What is halacha? Hamalvas chaver be'edim tzarech lepoyer be'edim. You don't have to pay back with Edom. For Apapa Mishmei Derava Amar Hamalvas chaver be'edim ain't tzarech lepoyer be'edim. So we have a machlokes Rav Papi and Rav Papa if Hamalvas chaver be'edim tzarech lepoyer be'edim or not. That's if I didn't say anything. Nothing was stipulated, but the halva was made with Edom. But v'im Amar al tafrani elo be'edim. But if the malva at the time of the halva stipulated that you must pay me back in front of Edom, then tzarech lepoyer be'edim, then everybody agrees that you have to pay back in front of Edom. But v'im Amar praticha b'fnei ploini u'ploini v'halchu lahem l'bnei hayom nemon. But you still have Shmuel's loophole where he could claim that he paid back with Edom. It's just that at this point in time, I cannot produce those Edom. Okay, Gavalti. Zog to Gemara weiter. Simon Reuven v'Shimon Detonu Hilchasa Yaspi Upara Ploini Uploini Avtzi Sitroi Behem Nusa Kevetre. Hahud Amar Lechavri. Somebody told his friend, Ki Paratin, when you pay me back, so the Malva told the Olive, I'm lending you money, but when you pay me back, Paratin li ba'ape Reuven v'Shimon. Don't just pay me back in front of Edom. I want you to pay me back bedavka in front of these two Edom. And then the Loiva paid him back, but he didn't have Reuven and Shimon there. He had other Edom. Amar Abaye, Zok Abaye, ba'ape beitrei Amar le. The Malva insisted on having two Edom. Ba'ape beitrei pare. So therefore, that should be good enough. Amar le Rava, I disagree. He only said Reuven and Shimon so that he shouldn't be pushed off. So what does this mean? Rashi explains this as follows. So, 1 second, where are they? Rashi says, where's the Rashi? I was looking for this Rashi. 1 second. Oh, I can't find the Rashi. The Rashi was here before and I looked. I don't know why I cannot find it. Okay, so let's see Tosis. What does it mean? Keheched lo yadachya. Sagt Rashi, sagt Tosis. Also poroi behadis had nechmini. Sagt Tosis pirish bekodris v'zeh omer edei shakri. Rashi learns that the claim is that your Edom are they're over here. Where are they? I'm sorry. Also, part of Abisad Echvini. Oh, okay, right. So that's the Rashi. Okay, so that's the argument if the other Edom are accepted. Correct? Tosus, I don't understand. Every Baldin could say those two Edom that you're bringing, they're liars. A Baldin is never believed to say that two Edom are lying. The Kivin to Amar Ba'ape Reuven v'Shimon. The Balt, he said in the original loan, he stipulated that you need to use Reuven and Shimon to pay me back, boy lememar, he's actually making a t'nai in the hava. And the t'nai in the hava is mehemnis li, you will believe me when I claim you didn't pay back. Kalecha de amrit loy paran, as long as I said that you didn't pay, you're accepting to believe me. Ad de parano bape Reuven v'Shimon kidlakamon. So this is no longer me contradicting Eidos. This is a personal condition we had. We had a condition that you will accept my taina as MS, that you did not pay me back unless you can bring Reuven and Shimon to declare otherwise. Umil hadaka amar. So this is not like Rashi, because Rashi holds I claim the Erdei Sheker. Tosha says no, it's just like I built the Tanai into the transaction. We hadaka amar v'samach lahachik amar ba'ape Reuven v'Shimon ke'echad lidachya. I only said Reuven and Shimon because I didn't want you to push me off. Meaning, I knew Reuven and Shimon would be available, and I didn't want you to tell me you paid back in front of Edom and the Edom went to Medina Sayyam. Because any Edom, it's possible that could have happened to. But I know Reuven and Shimon are staying put; they're not going anywhere. That's why I picked Reuven and Shimon. So Zokt Tosfos, that answer loy asi shaper leperusha doesn't fit in well according to this pshat. The ma dichli shayachkan, even the maisi sahadi. There's no dichli over here. You actually brought Edom. It's just that you didn't fulfill your Tanai. He should have said that I wanted you to bring Dafka these two Edom because otherwise you're not going to be potter from the loan because of the condition that we made. The case is precisely that. When they said they paid in front of other Edom, and they were unable to produce those other Edom. And therefore he could say, according to Rava, he could say, that's why I wanted Reuven and Shimon. Because with Reuven and Shimon, you would not have been able to come up with that excuse because I knew that they would be here, and therefore you have to pay. So the Machalek Abai Rava, Abai says 2 Edom is 2 Edom, and Rava says no. There was good reason for me to stipulate those 2 Edom, and you'll have to pay. When you pay me back, apparently Babi Beitrei. You have to pay me back in front of 2 Edom, but not any 2 Edom, the Tonu Hilchasa. 2 Edom that are big Talmid Chacham, they know Hilchas Choshen Mishpah. Also Parai, Bein delay, and he ended up paying him without any Edom at all. And what happened was, Isnisu Hanachzuze. The Malva lost the money. And now the Malva claims that he's entitled to be paid again. Also, Lakamed Reb Nachman, Amarlei, he said, in Kabula Klablasinamine, I'm not denying that I received this money from the Loiva, but Derech Pikadon. I didn't accept it as payment because I made stipulations. Payment has to be in front of 2 Edom that I learned it. I gave me money, yeah. I was going to hold it for him until he would be, I was going to hold it for him as a Shem Rechinam until he would be able to find Edom to return it. And then you Makayim to die. That's what I thought. Amalei Reb Nachman is laughing. He's laughing because Reb Nachman says, "Hakmanish kan kaparanyim with your yeshiva fadreit the tinies." Amalei, even the kamoides, the vadish lasinumine, your money paid you back. Piran ma'al yahaba, you were paid back. Finished. You wanted to Makayim at night? Fine, let him go now and find you 2 Edom who know what they're talking about. In other words, of course, I wouldn't do anything, but he said, "Hakmanish kan kaparan." He paid you back. Zil Aisinu, go bring Edom. The Ahna, the Rapshashas, the Tanin and Hilchasa. Here you have myself and Rapshashas, we are learned. The Safra, the Sifri, the Sefta, the Chula Kalmuda. We learned all this stuff. We're learned. We're here. The Tanai is taken care of. You got paid. Goodbye. Ahu the Amrle Lechavre. It's Kishmak when you unequivocally agree with the Psak of the Amiroyim. He also saw right through this time. The Amr. Please give me the 100 Jews that I lent you. The Loiva denied it completely. Also, ISIS had to do Uspe. Upari. Now Edom come along and say, yes, Reuven borrowed $100 from Shimon. But we saw Reuven pay back Shimon. So if you follow the Edom, I don't know money. If you follow me, I don't know money. But the problem is, Amar Abai, mine evidence. I'm sorry? But they also said he paid back. Right, I think I'm a liar, but I paid back. But I don't owe you money. I don't know. But look to buy it. I'm gonna buy it. My never. What should we do? Inu Amri Uspe. They say he paid the Edom. They say he borrowed money to Edom, but Inu Amri Pare. The same Edom that you're going to use to contradict me say that I don't owe you money because that I paid up. Rava Amar, no, Rava says he's going to pay again. You know why? Because Kala Amr Loy Lavisi. If you say Loy Lavisi, it's Amr Loy Paraiti Dami. It's as if you said Edus on your stuff that didn't pay. So now Edom come along and make you into a liar and say you paid. We don't believe you anymore. We already have your testament that you didn't pay. So now on the halva, we have Edom saying Lavisi. On the Piroin, we have your Edus that says you didn't pay. Because by saying you didn't borrow, that's also testifying you didn't pay. No one's paying if they didn't borrow. So the Edom are believed to say that you lied and that you are liable. You have Edom that say Parati, it doesn't matter. You're believed more than Edom when it comes to yourself. So therefore, you overrule the Edom with your loy Parati, and therefore you'll have to pay. Give me the $100 that you owe me. I pay you back in front of Pliny Pliny. I'm not sure if that's how you read it, or if you're loy, I'm not paying you because Praticha b'fnei Pliny Pliny. I'm not sure what the expression is, but it's the same thing. I already paid you back, and I paid you back in front of two Edom. Also, Pliny, those two Edom came along. Amru loy hayid varma. We don't know what he's talking about. We never saw him pay back anything. So now I've been proven to have lied about the Piroin. Sabar Absheshis Lamemer Huchsa Kafrin. Rabshesha wanted to say this guy's a chlora liar. He was contradicted by those Edom, and therefore we should be mechayiv him to pay. Amalei Rava no. He knows he paid back. Could be he doesn't remember exactly what when. He thought it was through these Edom, but maybe not. As Rashi says, he could have just said, I paid you back. He didn't even have to say, I paid you back in front of Edom. He would have been able to say, Paraiti. There was never a condition in this particular loan that would have demanded that he pay back with Edom. He could have paid back without Edom. He didn't remember exactly if he paid back with Edom or not, and it's the norm that someone wouldn't remember because that wasn't a stipulation. So therefore, but it's not necessarily a lie. It could just be a mistake, an oversight. We wouldn't make him into a huchzakafin with such a mistake. Give me 600 zuz, the masik nabach that you owe me. I already gave you 100 kavin of avti. Avti is some type of nut that they use in the processing of leather. The kaimi b'shita shita. If I give you 100 of these nuts that are worth 6 each, so I've basically given you $600. So I paid you back. Amalei, he said, lav bar 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 kaimi. That's not true. When you gave them to me, their value was only 4. So you paid me back 400, but you still owe me 200. Also, try siding. He brought to Edom, v'amru in barba arba avakaim. And then the Malver brought Edom that they were only worth 4 each, which now contradicts the Levi, makes him to a liar. This guy's a liar, and therefore we'll make him pay the rest. What do you mean? Amrit called Milsa. Didn't you just say that? And Rashi says, he could have just said parati. Instead, he gave detail. That's why when you talk too much, it messes you up. The server, he just remembered that he paid back. He didn't remember how. So he says, I paid you back with payers, and he thought that was the right amount. But it doesn't make him to a liar because he forgot. That's not true. Rava said, I disagree with that. Rava said, Amar Rava, Katsuza the Tyra Mitkar the Kiriinchi. Some facts people forget, but not the market price. That people don't forget, and therefore he is a huchzakafir. Okay, we'll stop here. Go ahead.